first of all, thank you for doing this. It's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah.
Secondly, we try to create like an environment of honesty on these interviews just because I'm a big believer that the faster we just kind of like put it out there, the faster somebody else can hear it and go, "Oh my gosh, that's exactly what was going on for me." And the more that they can relate to the experience, then the faster they'll be able to like drop into the same kind of breakthroughs and insights that you had. And
Mm.
so we do want to make sure that people listening are, getting some of those, and the insights will just flow naturally from your story. The first question I usually ask people is, what was like the lowest moment you were experiencing before you started working through the process that we were going through together? Because everybody tends to have that kind of like rock bottom moment before they make a change.
I was having issues with relationships. I felt like I was not dating or pursuing the right girls for me. And this wasn't an old me. It's not me anymore. And that caused me a lot of pain in my life. It led me to times where I was severely anxious. Like I would have panic attacks. I felt depressed. I didn't even know what depression was until then. Or I actually realized I actually felt that for a lot of my life. I felt that way after talking to you, because I realized, oh shoot, like this is actually conditioning that I've been
Mm-hmm.
experiencing for a lot of my life. I remember before we first started talking, I think that was also when I was suicidal. Like that was, it was when that's like the rock bottom of rock bottom. So that's where I was, and I remember it. And I remember it. Now we're thinking about it. I'm like shaking, remembering a little bit because I'm just not there anymore.
Yeah,
And
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, the changes have been amazing. So, what were those most like common recurring anxiety thoughts or depression thoughts? Like, what was the narrative that was sort of running through your head back then? Obviously, not true narrative, but what was the narrative running through your head back then?
yeah. I guess in terms of relationships specifically, and like I knew back then mainly a lot of the pain that I felt revolved around anything along the lines of relationships. And then I realized that some of the conditioning was occurring in other areas of my life. But I remember specifically then it was just feelings of like narratives in my mind about, not being good enough for someone. Or a big thing for me was I felt like there was something fundamentally wrong with me. So I kept like, what was wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? It was like needing to meet these, this idealistic expectation that I had for myself of like I
Hmm.
need to be like a perfect person or something in order to like have someone treat me respectfully, or just to feel that someone cared about me, or to feel that a girl like wanted to be with me, like or like other narratives were like, oh, I haven't experienced mutual feelings before, things like that, like a lot of
Hmm. Hmm.
negative, some of it's it's not, a lot of it's not true, you find out, but yeah, but these
Hmm.
are a lot of the narratives I had in my head, particularly around relationships, that were causing me a lot of problems. Like, why is she treating me this way, or things like that. And yeah,
I'm curious if you can, so typically when people have anxiety around relationships in particular, like intimate relationships, there's usually like two big fears that are popping up for people. The first fear is I'm not enough, which have kind of clearly resonated with. And then the other one that tends to pop up that's pretty related is if I'm not enough, then I don't deserve XYZ. So like what ends up happening for people who have that sort of internal insecurity is very often they end up staying in a relationship that's really not good for them long term. I guess there's a third
or
belief too.
pursuing a person that's just causing you pain. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And the third belief, actually, I'm realizing that comes up sometimes that's a fear for people is it's this belief, a belief of attachment, basically. It's a belief of like, okay, well, if I don't have this person in my life, or if this person is not giving me the love and the feedback and the respect that I need, then I am not good enough. So it's that version of like what we call playing the game of life from the outside in, where it sounds like those were kind of the big fears popping up for you. How do you relate to those?
Definitely. Like it's like I had like an expectation of some of these girls that I was involved with, and like I was attached to the feeling that there was something wrong with me. Like I
Right.
was like emotionally attached to
Total
the idea
fiction.
that there was some huh?
Total fiction in your
Yeah,
head.
I was
Yeah.
emotionally attached to the idea that there was something fundamentally wrong with me. But as I realized, I was pursuing relationships with, or pursuing whatever relationships, like dating, whatever. Like I was pursuing girls that,
Hmm.
like, in all total transparency,
They
they
weren't
didn't
aligned with
have
you.
yeah, they didn't have like the emotional skills that I was requiring from them.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. That's the nicest way possible. It was just
yes,
not, there was a lack of
like
compatibility.
if you're talking to like a therapist, they might say things like, "Oh, they're narcissistic," or "They're a narcissist," right? But like, I mean, just being totally transparent. But yes, I feel like
Yeah.
I don't want
No,
to
you're
say
good.
like
You're good.
too many things.
they weren't emotionally mature. And I mean, I remember unpacking all that with you, and really what it kind of came down to is I think you were just getting around people who were just not good for you. And I think that's what happens when you believe that you're less than or that you're not enough. That's kind of what I mean by like, okay, if I'm not good enough, I don't deserve XYZ. So it's this feeling of like, well, all right, well, I just have to put up with how they're treating me, kind of like we stay in that dynamic for too long. But we simultaneously are like, well, I can't tolerate somebody continuing to treat me the way that they are, but I can't leave either. So it becomes this
Right,
like
because it's
rock and
like
a hard place.
like I was definitely at a place where I felt emotionally attached to the pain that I was feeling in these
Hmm.
situations.
Hmm.
And so like on a spiritual level like that, it was really hard for me to move on from because I didn't know I had those issues for a while in my life. And I
Hmm.
didn't realize that like I was sort of just over time, I felt like I was conditioned to whether it be through how I was as a person or like how girls person, whatever, like I felt that
Hmm.
I was emotionally attached to that pain. And I didn't know like what it would
Yeah.
have been truly been like if I actually pursued someone who reciprocated how I was
Yes.
feeling.
And
And
it's crazy. It's crazy how that belief of like I'm not enough then permeates through your whole life, like it
yeah,
impacts your career. I remember you were having difficulty like sticking with your workout routines and stuff, right?
yeah, well, there was a time where I wasn't sticking to it, but I was a time where I was sticking to it when I was younger, and I ended up getting injured because I had a belief that like I didn't look good enough or things like
Mm.
that. So I was like adding way too much. Like I'm a
Hmm.
trainer now, but like I'm a trainer, and so like I've learned a lot from that experience. But I ended up injuring myself because I
Hmm.
was like forcing myself to lift like so much weight with form that I was using improper form. Like I wasn't doing things correctly when I was younger. Ended up pulling my upper trap, and then ended up like pulling everything around it, and it caused all these problems of
Yeah.
chronic tightness and stuff. And yeah, because I didn't feel like I was good enough, or I didn't look good enough, and in a way that I didn't feel like I was. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I didn't feel like I was good enough in that regard, and it caused me to
Hmm.
injure myself when I was younger.
Yeah, and I remember too, like some cycles happening for you where like something would go, like you'd have a bad interaction with one of your relationships, and then it would kind of throw you for a loop for like days. You remember? It would just kind of set you off your routine. So I think the reason I point that out is just because there's a lot of people listening, and there's this big common belief that people have where they say, okay, well, yes, I have a mental health issue. The mental health issue, though, is not my priority. What's my priority is this, this, and this. And they put their mental health at the bottom of the list. And they don't realize that's like saying, I can't afford to go get an oil change in my car right now. I need to drive across the country first. It's like you're setting yourself up to make sure the entire system explodes. Like everything becomes way more difficult when we've got anxiety and depression running the show, and everything becomes way easier. Everything in life becomes way easier as soon as we get the anxiety dealt with, which I'm sure you'll tell us about here in a minute. So before we get into that though, and the changes and the breakthroughs you had, like do me a favor and just be super, super honest and tell us like what were the skepticisms you had about either like working with me or using the method that we teach, or what kind of, just kind of what concerns, what skepticisms maybe did you have before we started doing the work together?
I'm gonna be totally real with you.
Oh, you're gonna roast me. I can tell it. I can tell
No, actually, no. I'm actually not. It actually is the opposite. I actually
it.
didn't have many skepticisms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know you probably were expecting something else, maybe, but
Well, most
well,
people do have skepticisms, but yeah, tell me more about that. Why was that?
well, I think because in my heart, I truly believed that these issues in my life weren't permanent. Like
Mm,
I believed that me feeling depressed or anxious, how I was feeling back then, like I truly like I felt like in my heart and soul, I did not believe it to be permanent. And I think that comes because I'm a Christian. I believe in overcoming suffering. I believe just suffering is just part of the process of growth, but like I don't believe it's a permanent state. And I remember I was seeing this was several years ago. I'm remembering all this stuff now. I was seeing a therapist for a little while. And I remember he told me that I was like clinically depressed, like I was like diagnosed with it or something. And like I didn't go back. and and something
mhm,
really felt off about that experience. And then I reached out to you, or I signed up online. You did things differently back then, I think, but it was I signed up online for the first time to talk to you, and you got on the phone with me. I remember one of the first things you told me was that me feeling being depressed was not a permanent condition. Like it's not
mhm,
something that it's not a permanent state. And when you told me that, I didn't have any mental objections. I didn't have anything like that. But
mhm,
just hearing that, I immediately believed it. I didn't have that. I wasn't telling myself that before I talked to you, but the second you said it and the way
Hmm.
you explained it, I
Hmm.
immediately believed you.
Yeah.
Like,
I
because I felt in my heart I knew it to be true. And then as soon as you said that, that has been my belief ever since. And of course, I've there's been a rocky road of growth since then, but I've maintained that fundamental belief that me feeling that way,
yes.
me feeling this way at that moment is not permanent. And
Yes.
eventually, I will overcome it.
I
Yeah.
think
And
that's
so
so
I didn't
critical.
actually have many skepticisms at all. So
Right.
I was actually looking for something new.
There you go.
And yeah, so
I love that, and I think there's two big learning moments for people on that. I love that you just said that because what's crazy is I think back to my little turning point moment in my mental health journey, and for me, it was also the exact same realization in my teens. It was just this belief of like, there's gotta be a way to take care of this. There's got to be a way to live a normal life. And at a very young age, I latched onto that idea. And I'm so grateful that I like even my therapists and my doctors and my teachers. And I was just like, no, there has to be a way to like get rid of this. And so I think that's a really important thing. I think the other important thing too, like, and this is not a critique on therapists or anybody else. And I don't remember exactly your history with therapy or that kind of thing, but there's so many people out there who are doing really good work. They are helping their clients, they're helping their patients, but they very routinely run into this roadblock. And the roadblock is there because both the patient and the therapist are entering into that environment operating from the assumption that the depression is here to stay long term or the anxiety is here to stay. And so what that does is it inherently boxes you in. And so typically when people are trying to work on their own mental health, whether they're doing it with a therapist or they're Googling online, they have assumed the anxiety, the depression is just going to be how it's going to be. And when you make that assumption, you're inherently limiting yourself massively. In fact, we even say like you feel anxiety in direct proportion to how few choices you convince yourself you have. So that's crazy. So tell us a little bit about what has really, let's take a moment to unpack a couple big insights, a couple big breakthroughs. Let's see if we can maybe like come up with a list of two or three. Like when you think of all the work that we've done and you zoom out and maybe you think, okay, what are some of the key things that I would really have wanted to make sure I told my younger self faster, earlier? What are some of the big like things that come up for you?
I think maybe it's because I'm a teacher right now. This is sort of where my mind immediately goes. But I think when I was younger, I think I would tell my younger self to. I mean, it's definitely related to things I mentioned, but I'll get to that in a second. But I definitely would have told myself that I wish I would have focused more on my schoolwork and when I was younger, and like I wish I would have went to bed earlier when I was younger rather than staying up, and like I just wish I would have taken a little bit more responsibility for my life at a younger age. Granted, we're all growing up at that time, but like there are other kids my age who are doing,
Hmm.
I felt like a lot of the problems that I carried over. I'm 30 now. A lot of my problems I carried over into my 20s, where I had like a lot of issues when I started talking to you and everything. They were just issues that carried over from when I was younger. And like if I'm talking to my like younger self, if we're going back to a time where I really wish I could have had a conversation with
Well, I
myself.
mean, what I really mean is like talking to your depressed, anxious self.
Yeah.
What are the breakthroughs and insights you have now that you, yeah.
Well, I felt I was depressed and anxious back then.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, like I mean, was like I didn't realize that like truly was like, but I was like how I was acting, how I was behaving. Like I truly carried. It was conditioning that I had when I was younger, like
Hmm.
even like the high
Hmm.
school age, and I carried it over into my 20s. And
Hmm.
those problems just persisted in my 20s that I never really moved on from when I was younger. And I wish I would have focused on something bigger than like relationship issues that I had when I was a kid and not carrying those over to when I was older. And like I wish I would focus on something bigger like my schoolwork or going to bed earlier, like building a little bit better habits early on.
Taking care of
Um,
yourself. Yep.
yeah, I mean, I know you go through growth when you're younger, but I teach high school right now. Like I see high school students who nowadays are carrying themselves better in that regard than I was when I was in high school, and so it's definitely possible. And I don't think I'm being hard on myself for saying that. If I'm back to middle school, sure, but like high school, like I wish there were certain habits I developed that could have helped save me in my 20s, and like I always go
Um,
back to when I think if I could talk to my younger self, I imagine talking to myself when I was in high school,
yeah,
being
yeah,
like,
for sure. And what do you feel? So if we fast forward a little bit, let's go to when you and I were initially working together, which I think was
yeah,
a handful of years ago. What do you know now that you didn't know back then when you were really in the throes of the mental health issues a couple of years ago?
I'm getting married in a little over a month. So I guess I didn't know back then that there would be a woman in my life who would reciprocate everything. So
Yeah. Who could actually be good for you?
yeah, she would actually be good for me.
Yeah.
I don't think I truly understood back then, like the amount of freedom that I had over my own life and my own decisions, and being able to say, having the freedom to say yes to things that I enjoy and make sure that I'm doing them. And I don't think I really truly believe the freedom that I had over my own habits and decisions. And I think that's really, really it. Which includes, what girl am I going to go on a date with, right? Like I have a
Right.
decision to be like, is she probably right for me or not? Like I have the freedom to do that. I don't get super emotionally attached to things anymore. I feel
Mhm.
like I'm like outside looking in most of the time.
Yeah.
And it
Very
makes
nice.
me feel like I have way more control over my
Yeah.
life, and I don't fall into those spirals.
I love, love, love that you just said that. And when I think about kind of the journey that we tend to take people through with every client, I mean, every client's a little bit different, but the thing that's the same with every client is that there's this continual process that we refer to as like reclaiming your power. Because when people are in a state of anxiety or they're in a state of depression, what they don't realize they have done is they have created one or more beliefs that says, I'm not in control of my life because of XYZ. Like, unless these other people give me approval, I can't feel good about myself. Or unless my boss tells me I'm doing a good job, I can't feel that I am doing a good job. Or unless everything in my life goes perfectly according to plan and there's no surprises, I can't feel safe and
Yeah.
function the way I want. It's always something that we have unintentionally like given our power away to, and we have to become aware of what it is we've given our power away to, and we have to reclaim it. And there's really only three sources. Like the one is other people. So it's us believing like, well, unless other people treat me like this or do it like this, then I can't feel worthy. I can't feel good enough. I can't feel lovable. I can't go out on a date. I can't pursue a relationship, whatever. The second one is outside circumstances, where it's like, well, unless outside circumstances go exactly how I want, I can't feel safe, calm, function, do whatever I need to do. And then the third one, I think, was a big one for you, is the self one, which is unless I do exactly what I'm supposed to do all the time, consistently and imperfect, then I'm a bad person, right? Like if
Yeah.
I make one mistake, I'm a failure. If I have
Yeah.
one bad interaction with somebody, I'm unlovable, right? Like
Yeah.
those are probably not the exact words that ran through your mind, but yeah, like that big spiral of as soon as one little thing does not go how I want it to, it means the whole thing is screwed up, and the mind
Yeah.
loves to go down that giant rabbit hole.
And then some of these experiences I was having, it would trigger that feeling over
Yeah.
and over and over again, particularly with some of these relationship circumstances I was in. Like it was constantly triggering the things that caused me pain
Mhm.
over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And
So once you moved past the I'm not enough BS, right? Like once you really, got past that, what started opening up in your life? Like what were the things that maybe before felt not possible that now felt possible or maybe easier?
everything.
Great.
When you said that, my mind went like the five different places. I'm like, oh, well, fitness, relationships, communicating in general, social events, like,
Right.
like,
Self-confidence. Yeah.
yeah, like,
I mean, hell, you're getting married. You're in love. You're
yes.
getting married. There, that's the biggest. That's amazing,
Yeah.
right? So there was a time where love life was not looking how it's looking right now, and I think you
Yeah.
even maybe thought it wasn't really possible to have what you have now. That's huge.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
talk.
yeah, I never thought I was ever going to get over the situations that I was in, like emotionally. And
Mhm.
I never thought I was ever going to get over them. Now, like, I don't even think about them anymore. I just brought them up because you asked. So,
Right. Right. And with the anxiety and the depression gone, what has been the impact with your physical health and like your fitness and all of that?
yeah, even that injury I mentioned earlier that, I had, like, I felt like I was really able to focus, and like I've pretty much like fixed the condition that I had when I was younger. I learned a lot about fitness along the way to help other people, improve their health and fitness as well. But yeah, like I feel like there's not much pressure on me either when I go to the gym too. Like it's not like there's not pressure on me like I have to look a certain way, or I have to like whatever ideal that I had. Like I don't feel like that ideal is there anymore. So I find that when I go to the gym, I'm actually making much more progress than when I was younger, and my body feels better and everything because I don't have a lot of that mental junk in the way anymore. Even the whole like good enough thing. Like I remember when I was younger, I used to do they call this like body checking, whatever. Like I like to check see what you look like because like you have to look a certain way. I don't even it doesn't even cross my mind like half the time anymore.
Hmm.
Like it just does that mean like I care aware. It's just like, cause but I just don't half the time. I'm not even thinking about it. I just follow the steps, and I
There you
don't,
go.
a lot of the mental stuff that's going on in the background that used to happen. It's just not there. Like for a
Yeah.
lot of things in my life.
Right. Well, and that's the whole power of playing the game from the inside out. So now you're just focused on how you're showing up, doing the right things, following the process, doing the intentions, as opposed to,
Yeah.
well, what if this and what if that, and then we've also now recently had some big breakthroughs for the future of your career and your finances and all that is unlocking too. So that's great
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. What would you say has been like the singular best moment that you've experienced on the other side of the anxiety and the depression?
Can you ask that one more time?
So, what would you say has been like the singular best moment that you've experienced since getting past the anxiety and depression?
The singular best moment. I don't think I was truly past at this point, but when I was getting past is the first thing that came to mind when you asked.
Hmm.
I think for the first time in my life, maybe the first time where I could remember and I was actually aware of it at the same time, I felt like I truly experienced peace of mind. And I think I still remember that moment. I
Tell
think
us about it.
that's the best moment, I think. When I experienced that, then I was like, oh, my mind actually doesn't have to race all the time. Even if my mind does start racing, I don't have to follow it.
Mhm.
And that realization, I think, I still remember the moment where I felt that way. And
Where were you? What was going on?
I was in my bed reading a book. It was a book I was reading because I started doing your coaching and everything. So I had a whole world opened up to me. And I was reading an Eckhart Tolle book. I was a Power Now.
Oh, right,
And
right.
yeah, I'm like, this is all the stuff Ty mentions to me. And
Yeah,
yeah, and I remember feeling that. Yeah, and I've really just carried
mhm.
that with me.
Yeah,
And
because once you
that whole world opened up to me when I started talking to you because
sure.
I didn't even know it existed. Like I was in such a trance for so much of my life. I didn't realize how much my thoughts were dictating everything that I was doing. And there were of course exercises that I did with you along the way and everything. I remember doing your certain exercise. You have a specific another thing is you have a specific belief exercise where it's like the different like I think it's like 7 steps. You write down like as what the belief is it true, all that stuff. And that exercise also is so freeing because like you can literally after the exercise you can literally feel a weight lift off your shoulders.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
You don't really realize how much weight your mind is causing you to carry
In your
every
body.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, in your body or just yeah, or like making you feel like less energized. Like it's really weighing you down physically and what you're doing on a day-to-day basis if you're not really aware of it or you're following the beliefs that, as you say, the beliefs that don't serve you. Yeah.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
it sounds like that's maybe, you said what are the big breakthroughs? And I think a couple big themes for us to close off here are you are far more in charge of your own life than you believe, right? That's like a big thing
Yeah.
we want people to know. And what I like to say is like you're not in full and complete control of your life, but you are definitely the one in charge of it, right? Like
Yeah.
you're never going to be able to control each and everything, but that's okay. You don't have to. All you got to do is assume the responsibility, the ability to respond to the things that are happening. And then number two, along with that, is like finding those hidden little limiting beliefs and fears and anxieties, and then having a process to actually dismantle those, right? That's the freeing,
Yeah.
liberating thing that you're talking about. And that's kind of one of the things that makes our process unique. So, real quick to wrap things up, tell us if you have any advice to the people listening, because they're struggling with anxiety, they're struggling with depression, any advice you want to give them. Let's start there. And then I got one final question for you.
Sure. If you truly want to overcome this stuff and like truly overcome it, not like dip your toes in the water, you have to actually believe in your like soul that it's not permanent. It's not permanent. Like you feeling depressed does not have to be a permanent thing. You feeling anxious all the time doesn't have to be a permanent thing. Like you always having panic attacks doesn't have to be a thing anymore. These are patterns or because the way you think, your beliefs, habits that you're doing on a day-to-day basis that affect your mental health, like whether it's sleeping or the food you're eating, whatever. Like there are things in your life that you can do, that where you can make those changes. You're not actually experiencing these things anymore. I truly believe that. And then of course, like it can be, a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, and then like a thought pops up in your mind again and where you start like feeling the way that you used to feel. It doesn't mean that you're depressed. It doesn't mean that you're depressed all the time time. It just means that a past like thought pattern or whatever, or whether, or maybe you're just still conditioned to follow your thoughts a little bit. Like that's just why it keeps coming up. You have to truly believe in your heart and soul that it is not permanent. And if you're still hanging on a little bit to the idea that, like, I think I am going to be stuck with this for the rest of my life, then it's going to be really, really hard, break through some of these things. And I get that sometimes a situation you're in feels so emotionally challenging. Like for me, like some of the experience I had with girls, like it felt really emotionally challenging for me to get out of. But it wasn't until I made the firm decision in my life that like I'm not focusing on this anymore, or I'm not dealing with this anymore, like I'm moving on from this, that things really started to change. Yeah, it's not permanent.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Yeah, what I always like to remind people is you cannot solve a problem that you are defining in unsolvable terms.
Yeah.
So when we define the problem of anxiety, when we define the problem of depression as, oh, this is just how it is, this is just who I am, you have now created a belief system that locks you into that reality indefinitely. And until you decide to believe that you can actually live a life without it, it is not going to be accessible to you. So I think that's great advice. Let's wrap up by, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about the work you're doing on the fitness side of things, and we're going to provide a link below the video and all that, so people can contact you and get in touch if that's something they want to do. But like, what kind of people are you working with? What kind of problems are you helping people solve now, especially that the anxiety is not really holding you back in that area too?
Right. Yeah. So I'm helping busy people lose weight and build muscle without needing to spend a ton of hours in the gym. I'm usually going to do these things in like, 90 minutes a week in the gym, or maybe 2 hours, right? But you don't have to spend a ton of time, training in order to get the results that you want. So I mostly work with busy people who are, have families, they actually have a job, right? They actually have responsibilities in their life. And I actually help them make fitness a part of their life. It doesn't become their whole life. So that way they actually experience, the mental and physical benefits of, being able to lose the weight or build the muscle that they want. Yeah. That's what I'm doing.
That's amazing. I love that. Anybody who's watching the video, we'll have a link below this where you can get in touch with Ben. Ben is who I refer basically all of my clients to who are looking for health and wellness advice. He's the only guy I really trust. As you guys can already tell, having witnessed this, it's because he's got a heart of gold and he really cares. And of course, he knows what he's talking about too, but he is a real joy to work with. And Ben, thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights. And I really, really honor you. We've worked together a good while now, off and on different things. And I'm so glad that you are seeing what I've seen in you from the very beginning, which is just how high caliber and quality of a person and a man that you really are. And I'm so excited for you and your fiance. You guys deserve all the happiness in the world. And I'm so excited for you now that you got these issues behind you.
Yes. So. Yeah, I know. So am I.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, it's not goodbye. It's just see you later. So we'll chat soon. Keep us updated, and congratulations on all your progress.
All right. Thank you.
All right, buddy. See ya.